Let's make some miniature square-shaped jars from resin. These are perfect for dollhouse kitchens, storage, or decorating. And welcome to my channel, Notorious Crafts. Here's the silicone mold set that I got, and it comes in many pieces. These ones are going to create the body of the jar. It kind of goes in like this. I'm going to pour the resin in and then place this on top. And then this is going to be the bottom of the jars. And then this is for the lids of the jars. I'm using UV resin hard type, and then I'm also using my LED light to cure the resin. I'm pouring the UV resin directly into the jar molds. At first, it's hard to know how much UV resin you need. If you put too much, it's going to goop all over the sides. If you don't put enough, then it won't fill up your jar. I decided to add a little bit more just because it looked like it wasn't enough. And it's my first one, so we'll see how these turn out. But I grabbed a toothpick and I'm just spreading it around the mold to create an even coat of UV resin. Once I had a nice even coat of resin, I placed the centerpiece directly into the mold. Then I added some more UV resin on top of the centerpiece so that the UV resin coats the other side of the jar. I spread the UV resin around using the toothpick that I used earlier, and I really hope this will get me a nice even coat. Now I'm adding the top piece of the silicone mold, and I'm going to push it down, hoping that the UV resin spreads around to every single crevice. And then I'm going to grab a rubber band just to make sure everything is nice and tight before I place it under the UV lamp. And now it's ready to go under the UV light so that it can cure and harden. Now that the UV resin has hardened, it's time to take it out of the mold. I found it very difficult to take it out of the mold, and I ended up breaking some of the jars while trying to do that. I realized I didn't put in enough UV resin, so the walls of the jar were very thin. So when I tried to take them out of the mold, I ended up completely squishing them in. So I pretty much destroyed this first round of jars that I made. For this second batch of jars that I'm trying out, I'm adding a lot more resin than I did the first time, since the walls of the jar were way too thin and I ended up breaking them. So I'm hoping if I add more resin, that will do the trick. And I actually have a jar that turned out, so adding more resin was the trick. There are a few air bubbles, but it's not too noticeable. Now I'm making the base of the jar. So I'm using this mold, and all I'm doing is just adding some resin to the very top of the mold. I'm getting out some of the air bubbles using a toothpick. After curing, I'm taking out the base pieces out of the silicone mold. Now to attach the bottom of the jar to the rest of it, I'm adding just a little bit of UV resin to a toothpick, and then I'm going to spread it around the very bottom edge of the jar. I'm placing the base piece on the bottom of the jar where the UV resin is not cured yet. And then I place it on top of a silicone mat. And then I'm turning on my UV light so that the wet resin can cure and harden and attach the base piece to the bottom of the jar. And here's how the jar turned out with the base piece attached. I'm really happy with how this jar turned out, minus the few air bubbles. I'm also making the jar lids, and I'm not sure how much resin I'm supposed to use, so I'm just guesstimating and hoping for the best. And here's the final result of my miniature dollhouse jars. I really like the square shape of them. It was a little bit difficult at first to try to gauge how much resin I needed, but in the end, I figured it out and I needed a lot more resin than I thought I did, but I'm really happy with the final result. I'll probably fill these up with miniature candies and place them in my miniature kitchen. Let me know what you guys think of this miniature creation. As always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.